The Ross 1793 George Washington Peace Medal and Chickasaw History by Mitch Caver. European nations, in an effort to symbolize the loyalty of various Indian tribes and to exert their influence in America, presented Indian leaders with peace medals. The French, Spanish, English, and later the Americans created these medals, and Indians proudly wore these. Here is an example of one worn by Seneca War Chief Red Jacket. One day, Dr. Brad Leib, who is the Chickasaw Nation's chief archaeologist, gave me this 1935 Memphis Commercial Appeal newspaper clipping. And he told me, he says, no one from years ago ever remembers it being found. And he said, I can't find any other references to it. He said, you're pretty good about locating things. He said, see if you can find it. So that started me on the quest of trying to find this 1793 George Washington Peace Medal. Brad had told me that these medals were unique, hand engraved by a silversmith. So I was looking for imperfections on a medal that might be a match. That would be a good indication that I had the same medal. So the first thing I did was obtain a high resolution photo that was still available from the archive of the Commercial Appeal. I got this from the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, which had the photo in their archive. So I obtained that, and that gave me a good basis for searching, knowing that I had a good general image of the medal that I was looking for. I didn't give up. I had looked about 2 years for every peace medal that came available online in auctions and photos and books, trying to find a peace medal that matched the image that I had from 1935. And then one day I stumbled upon this photograph on Flickr where somebody had taken a photo of a George Washington Peace Medal from 1793, and I looked at the scratches and the imperfections, and I knew it was the same medal. And the guy indicated it was at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery. So I instantly knew where the medal was. In talking to the Smithsonian, they said they didn't know the provenance of the medal other than that Lloyd Shermer had donated to them in a batch of other medals. So in that conversation, I asked them, could I get a high resolution photo, which they sent me, and here's a picture of that. Once I had both images, then I set about comparing imperfections. And in this image, you can see there's a real strong indicator that I had the same medal. There's an imperfection there, and it's on the 1935 photo, and it's on the Smithsonian photo. And so that was a confirmation that I had the exact same medal. Even though I had determined that the medal was at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, I did know the provenance of the history of ownership, which is one of the most important things you could find out. And it took me a couple of years, but just randomly one day I was mentioning it to my sister. I was trying to find this J.T. Ross, and I'd called every Ross in Tupelo, and nobody ever heard of him. So she told me, she said, well, you know, our first cousin Bill Caver in Boonville, Mississippi, said he married Ann, and she was a Ross. It's called Ann. So I called her and I said, Ann, have you ever heard of a J.T. Ross? And she said, well, I had an uncle J.T. He said he passed away a long time ago, but his son Larry Ross lives in Arkansas. Said I've got his number. Says call him. See if he's ever heard of this Indian Peace Medal. So I called him one day and I said, Larry, you don't know me, but I'm Mitch Caver, and my first cousin married your first cousin, Ann Caver in Boonville. He said, oh, yeah. I said, and you had a dad, J.T. That's right. I said, did he find an Indian Peace Medal in Tupelo, 1935? He said, that was my dad. And so Larry told me the history as he knew it, and that he'd carried the medal to a show and tell at school, and they sold the thing in like the 40s or 50s to Mr. Moses, had a Cadillac dealership in Corinth, Mississippi. He said, give me a couple of weeks, let me contact that family. He said, I talked to it 5, 10 years ago, good many years ago, and he said, let me see what I can find out. So he called me back in about a week, and he said, well, that whole family's dead. The old man, both his sons, but said, Brenda Moses was married to one of the sons, says, here's her number, give her a call. So I called her, and I said, Brenda, I explained the whole thing to to her, and she said, well, we had that metal until the late 1980s. My husband and his brother both owned it jointly, and said they sold it to an auction company in the Northeast. And she said, that's really all I know about the metal. She said they kept it in a lockbox. So when she said auction company, I knew it had to be somebody or some auction company that's pretty prominent to handle a piece metal. So I started looking for Christie's or Sotheby's, and I found where Sotheby's had sold a 1793 piece metal in the late 80s. Then found a company in California that carried the old catalog. Called the lady. She pulled the catalog, looked at it, and she said, well, it's got an Indian piece metal, and it says it was found in Tupelo. I said, I got to have that. So I think it cost me $25, and she sent me that catalog, and it said it was found in Tupelo. It verified everything that Larry Ross had told me, so I knew that Sotheby's had it next. And so here's the sheet from the Sotheby's catalog, and then in the following page you'll see a photograph of it. Also within the Sotheby's catalog they had two high resolution photographs of the metal, and when I looked at those I saw that the imperfections were the same. I knew again it was the same metal. In talking to the Smithsonian, they had told me that Lloyd Shermer had donated the medal to them in a batch of other medals in a collection. And so I got online, was able to determine contact information for Lloyd Shermer, who is an artist of modern art. And I got in contact with him, and he was very helpful. He told me that he had bought the medal from Stax, a company that deals in piece metals and coins. And so I then had a connection between Sotheby's and Stax. So I was able to connect all these back to between J.T. Ross and the Smithsonian. And here we have a photograph that was supplied by Stax to the author of a book. So you can see it's the exact same metal. So today we know that the premier piece metal in the collection of the National Portrait Gallery, the Smithsonian, is a 1793 George Washington piece metal that at some time in the 1790s was worn by Chickasaw Minko or Chief. Here's just a couple of other photos that I used in my research. This is a photo of the Smithsonian medal on the left, and then on the right is the image from the Memphis Commercial Appeal from 1935. Here's a comparison of the Stax photograph with the original 1935 Commercial Appeal newspaper clipping. And you can see how I did an overlay and showing that the metal did, both metal photographs did match. In this photo, you will see that the engraver's mark is in the same location on both metals. When I provided the history of ownership to the Smithsonian and in discussions with them about the metal, uh, the idea came up of a visit by the Chickasaws to the Smithsonian to view the medal. So they extended the invitation to the Chickasaws, and the Chickasaws in turn invited me to go and view the medal. So on June the 29th, 2015, we came to the Smithsonian, and we were met by Dr. Brandon Fortune, pictured here, and she is the chief curator of the National Portrait Gallery at the Smithsonian. The Chickasaw Nation hired an expert in the field of peace medals to verify that this was the same medal that was found in Tupelo in 1935. In other words, he was verifying my research, and he did that day. Here he is viewing the medal. This is a photo of me for the first time holding the medal. So it was a culmination of all my research and quite meaningful for me that day to actually hold the medal that was the subject of my research project. George Washington sent 3 medals by his Secretary of War, Henry Knox, to the Chickasaw Nation in one batch of medals. One went to Pio Mingo and the other 2 to the sons of Colbert, which more than likely were George Colbert and William Colbert. We know that George Colbert died in Indian Territory and William Colbert died at his home at another location, which by the process of elimination, some have said that left only one medal that could possibly be Pio Mingo's. But the problem with that is that there's been another medal found there. And also in 1794, many medals were sent here. And this date of 1793 is an issue as well because those 3 medals were sent in 1792. So the medals would have had to been post dated. The batch of medals set in 1794 fits better if the medals were already made. So at this point, I think it's just pure speculation of who the medal could have belonged to. I do know that this particular medal, was not associated with a grave. It was found by itself with no other items. Here is the reverse of the peace medal. I wanted to thank Dr. Brad Leave of the Chickasaw Nation who initiated this research project, and to everyone else who assisted me along the way. Thank you very much.